Hey everybody, welcome to another week of Cheltenham Focus with me, Daryl Carter from RacingTips.com. Told you it was going to be a little bit of a different view to the show this week. I've brought in a good friend of mine, Dave Young, aka Cheltmental. How are you, Dave? You all right? Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be doing something different. I'm just so excited now that it's so close to the Cheltenham Festival. Each time these weekends go past and we do another review of what's happened, it just makes you realise that it is getting ever closer, and it is just a couple of weeks away now.
It is getting very close. It's definitely exciting. It's getting to the point now where the markets are really starting to form. We've pretty much seen all we need to see. We're just going to do a quick roundup of the week's action that's just gone by. Not a lot in terms of Cheltenham Festival clues. However, Ascot on Saturday, Sporting John was an impressive winner of the novice hurdle. I thought he was really impressive. I don't think Master Debonair stays the extra distance of 2.5 miles. I'm not entirely sure what you think, Dave. I thought Sporting John was pretty impressive in what was atrocious conditions, really.
Yeah, and he looked good on debut at Exeter when he quickened away from the last after looking like he might have been in a bit of trouble. And he was similar at Ascot. He pinged the last, drew well clear. He does look like a proper type, but he's only gone right-handed so far. I agree with you about Master Debonair that he didn't need the trip. I don't even know how hard they would have been on him, thinking he just needs a prep run for a Supreme, but it looked like they were trying. But yeah, Sporting John looks a decent prospect. Not sure where they'd go with him. Maybe they'll probably end up going to Ballymore, but...
Yeah, I'd agree. Master Debonair, disappointed. Would you consider him a Supreme contender after that run? I know it was over slightly further, but, you know, this close to the festival on that sort of ground can't give you much confidence, surely, can it?
No, and I did quite like him as a potential bigger price runner for it. It seems like Fiddler Roof's definitely going to go for the Supreme as well. Robbie Power is going to be riding that horse. I think that's why John Joe O'Neill Jr. got the mount this time. He does tick a few boxes in terms of the stats. So he's had the 4 runs, things like that. So he still will come up on a lot of shortlists, I think, because of that case. But yeah, it wasn't ideal. And his best form has come at Ascot. So for him to disappoint there this weekend was a bit underwhelming, I think.
It was indeed. The Reynolds Novice Chase, obviously, next race on the card, won by Copperhead quite impressively. Disappointments in the races were both Pim and Sam Brown. Sam Brown just didn't look to travel, didn't look to jump very well, got into no sort of rhythm. Pim was never going to enjoy a slog in the mud either. You'd have to be concerned for both of those horses going forward in the RSA. This race is normally a good pointer towards the RSA, but Copperhead perhaps looks like going on to the National Hunt Chase 4-miler. Anything to take out the race, Dave, other than the winner?
Well, no, I think you touched on the fact that there was a couple of disappointments in there. I was a bit disappointed with Danny Whizbang as well, considering he was so close. Seems like he's supposed to be an absolute slogger. I imagined him being similar to Manella Rocco in this race a few years back, where he would stay on towards the end. And as opposed to it being the RSA pointer, he went on and then won the National Hunt Chase. I think you're right with Copperhead, though. He looks probably like the further he goes, the more testing it is, the better for him. I just worry slightly, given it's so close, and maybe how much that race might have taken out of him, whether I'd fancy backing him now at 6-1 for the National Hunt Chase. But I'd imagine a few people are on at bigger prices before, so fair play to them.
Yeah, I agree. And the whole vibe around this weekend and Ascot and what's happened and that, we were all excited and happy that it was on. But, you know, the ground is not ideal. The preparation is not really ideal for a Cheltenham Festival in 3 weeks' time. And talking about preparations for Cheltenham in 3 weeks' time, riders on the Storm won a Betfair Ascot Chase, and that's usually a good trial for the Ryanair. But you'd have to be worried about any horse that ran that race on Saturday with those conditions. And the way they finished that race off, just really in just a tired state, in my opinion. Nice to see Surname get up, but I doubt we'll be seeing him again this season. Anything to take out of that race, Dave? Or do you think it's just a bit to write the form off and not really take much notice of the result of that race?
Yeah, I did. In the initial aftermath, that's pretty much exactly how I felt. I thought Riders on the Storm at one point looked like he was going to be an absolute Ryanair banker, the way that he looked like he might go clear. Then Traffic Fluid came so close to him, I thought, well, he's not going to win a Ryanair now. But maybe in the fact that Traffic Fluid did fall, maybe he might not have beaten him. I know he traded short. Surname was obviously well beaten in there. Maybe Riders on the Storm's not maybe getting the credit he deserves. But I've had him pinned down as just a decent handicapper. I wouldn't fancy him for the Ryanair before the race, and I certainly wouldn't fancy him for it now after. But the fact that he did win and the fact that he did do Surname in his backyard, all those bits and pieces, even though you could like sort of degrade the form a little bit, I think people that have got a ticket on him for the Ryanair shouldn't be completely ruling him out. I think he's still definitely got a chance, but you know, it will have been a race that's taken something out of him for sure.
Yeah, and that is followers of Cheltenham Focus, because we did put him up a few weeks back at around 10.20, still around the same sort of price. I'd be slightly concerned, if I'm being honest now, with that ticket. It's normally going to come up good ground on that day for the Ryanair, and you just have to be concerned how much that race took out of him. But anyway, moving on over to Gorham Park, Reynolds Chase, Reynolds Hurdle was won by Celios Emery at 1-4 on. If you read the Racing Post comments on this race, it said he's done it very easily. I've watched the race back a few times. I would have to disagree a little bit, although he did pull well clear. It wasn't as easy as I've seen some other potential champion hurdle contenders win races this season. So, Celios Emery, can he win a champion hurdle, Dave? They've supplemented him this week. Can he win a champion hurdle?
I think before he ran this weekend, I actually gave him a tiny bit of a squeak, thinking off the ratings, he's not too far off. I quite liked him as a champion chase prospect this season, but we know how well that race is shaped up now. But he was definitely disappointing on the weekend. He didn't really draw clear like he should have done. But it is something that I've noted about him before. He has been a bit lazy in some of his races towards the end of it. So, I mean, I wouldn't completely dismiss it, but Willie Mullins made a comment after that they basically ran him in that race knowing that he should be winning it. And ultimately, the prize money from that pays for the supplementary to the champion hurdle. So it's not like he's bullish about his chances or he seems really keen on confidence. I think it's just a case that they've ticked the box that he's going to run in the champion hurdle, but it didn't visually look like he's going to win a champion hurdle, and the post-race comments wouldn't fill you with confidence either. So he is plenty good enough now, I think.
He is, and he's got a bit of form to find on this Supreme Novice Hurdle run with Ballyandy, about 5 lengths to make up. So you'd have to be hopeful of his chances, if anything else. The Reynolds Chase later on in the card, Chris's Dream one, beating Shattered Love, Snow Falcon, fairly useful field. Anything worth taking out of that race? That for me, Dave, no. But what's your opinion? Do you think there's anything worth taking out of it? Chris's Dream, perhaps? No, not a fan.
No, well, Chris's Dream is the same as Riders on the Storm for this season. He won a handicap comfortably off of a decent mark, but it's because he was running off a decent mark. They're talking about they don't know where they're going to go. They're talking probably more about the Gold Cup with him, but I don't know. I don't think he's anywhere near the class to be winning that, and they might not even bring him over. He hasn't travelled before. They don't know all those things, so yeah, it wouldn't be my idea of a festival winner.
Oh, I agree. Captain CJ today on Sunday won the 10-up Novice Chase, beating Elwood and Speak Easily, well fancied Speak Easy on the day. Captain CJ obviously boosting the form of Manila Indo. Does that give you any more confidence in Manila Indo for the festival in terms of the RSA?
Not really. I do quite like the 10-up this time of year, given that it's so close to the festival, and sometimes it's an easier race for some horses. But looking at the race before today, it looked like it was a substandard renewal, and I think the result and the way the race was run pretty much echoes that. So I wouldn't care about any sort of form booster from that. I'd just treat everything as it was before. Perfect.
And the big talking horse on Sunday was Bloody Adam. Went off at 1-4. I have seen it was short biggest one or shortest fight before. Excuse me, getting muddled up. Went off at 1-4. Disappointed. Big purchase. Gordon Elliott really fancied him for this today. What did you make of the run? I felt he was given a little bit too much to do, but if you are the best of the best, and he was as well regarded as, or better than Envoy Allen, you'd expect him to pick up the front two there, but he just couldn't quite do it in those heavy ground conditions. What did you make of the run?
Yeah, it was massively underwhelming. Like you say, he's been a talking horse for a long time, been backed at big prices. He was plenty short enough for a champion bumper before today's race went off anyway, but people were still getting stuck into him thinking that he could be a bit of value, which was a bit bizarre to me. He does look like he'll be a nice prospect going forward, but you're right, Jamie Codd sat there like he had loads of horse on him. I think he might have thought he did. But the horse that won the race, I'm pretty sure he was second behind Wide Receiver as well. That horse has been pretty pants. So, I don't know. They talk about these horses winning schooling bumpers with other horses that are in the same stable. I think Gordon Elliott might just have to settle with the fact that his bumper crop this year is substandard. Yeah, agree. And you can now get him as big as 25-1 for the champion bumper. So that's about it. That was the week that was. Dave, I've got you in. I want to ask you some quick fire questions. I just want a yes or a no for a couple of these. You'll get the gist of it, just like sort of quick, snappy, one-word answers. So, first of those is Envoy Allen. Envoy Allen, banker or a blowout at the Cheltenham Festival? Banker.
Will we see a back-to-back Gold Cup winner this year?
Could do, yeah.
Whoa, yes or no?
Yes.
Shiskin, can he win the Supreme?
No chance.
Right, I've got a few horses now. I want you to say one horse's name, okay? Altior, Chacon Poussoir, Deputy de Sceaux.
Altior.
Benny de Joux, Honeysuckle.
Benny de Joux.
Carefully selected Champagne Classic.
Carefully selected.
Itchy Feet, Facketed Alvis, in a march.
Itchy Feet.
A Plutard Min.
Min.
Tiger Roll, Easy's Land.
See, that's the race we haven't touched on from the weekend. I know it's supposed to be a word, but everyone's raving about his performance this weekend, saying it was quite nice. I was very underwhelmed, to be honest. I think I'm the only person that is. He'll still win the cross country, but yeah, that wasn't.
I don't think the only reason I haven't touched on it, and I did it deliberately to see if you bring it up, was because I think it's just pointless talking about it. He's being prepped for a cross country and then a Grand National, and he's running in a hurdle race. It doesn't matter what he does today, really, unless he's pulled up or taken a fall or something serious happened. To be honest, I don't think it actually has any bearing on what he's going to do at Cheltenham All Entry. But anyway, last one. Goshen, All Mankind.
All Mankind.
Whew. Very, very good. Okie dokie. Next little bit of this show, Dave. I would like you to give some of the followers of Cheltenham Focus just some punting pointers. Now, we're coming close to the festival. Everyone's getting excited. The markets are not really going to be moving much over the next few weeks. Okay. And then the weekend before the week of the festival is really exciting for everyone. Everybody's buzzing. No one can wait. People want to get their bets on, as soon as the decks are out. When do you place your bets for the first day? Do you wait till the morning of the race? Do you do it the night before? Do you do it on the Sunday? As soon as the decks are out, you steam straight in. How do you play the first day? How do you set yourself up for the rest of the week?
So I'm slightly different because majority of my stakes will be ante-post. So I'd probably say 95% of what I bet for Cheltenham will have been done by now. When it gets nearer the festival, I'll be looking at price boosts, decent value offers that might be out there so that I can maybe either boost up horses that I might not have as much on as I wanted, or maybe look for a little bit of cover because I'm quite happy to back a couple in a race. It's just all about making profit for me. But I used to do all right just betting on the day anyway. So back in the days when I used to do that, the main things this time of year is the bookmakers are balancing their books quite a lot, which means those countdown to Cheltenham offers, all the promotions they're doing, they're going to be giving some ridiculous value on certain horses. Now, it does depend whether you fancy them or not. But keep an eye out on all the countdown special offers. There's a few groups that you can join which will alert you to those sorts of things. I've got one on my Cheltmental Facebook page. It's just free to get into. We'll post on there when there's a bookies boost, and then we'll compare it to the odds checker odds. Sometimes there's some really stonking value on that. So that'll be something you definitely want to keep an eye on. But in terms of anti-post now, it's pretty close to the festival. I wouldn't be classing this as anti-post anymore. I think unless you're betting with Bet365, who do best odds guaranteed, you are normally better to wait till nearer the day. And I'd just be a bit wary about some multiples and things like that. I know it's quite nice if you fancy a couple of shorties to be sticking them in lucky 15s, all those sort of things. But you will be far more successful at a Cheltenham Festival over 28 races if you're betting singles or maybe the occasional doubles. So I think really see how the first 2 days go. Tuesday, Wednesday should be the easier days to make a bit of money. And then maybe play it a bit from by ear by then, really.
Perfect. That is a fantastic answer. Excellent. So we're looking for value on the lead up. We're keeping our eyes peeled for anything that we can see that's going to be potential value, regardless whether it's on the day or the weekend. But you can still be betting on the morning of the race. There's no right or wrong way to do it, provided you're getting the best price for your horse. Excellent. So you mentioned there multiple bets. What are the best types of multiple bets for the followers of Cheltenham Focus to be doing? And when would you suggest that they should be putting these multiple bets together?
Yep. So again, the way that I bet, I'll have the graded races, which is where I find it's my sort of gravy train. It's easy at the top level. You tend to find most of the horses are trying all the time. But when it gets nearer the festival, the handicaps are ones that I get quite excited about. We'll get the entries of those coming out next week. And then the week after, we'll get the weights. So you've got a week or so to keep an eye on what you might fancy there. You'll be able to see the markets moving with odds checker. But as I mentioned with the anti-post stuff, I'm quite happy to back a couple of horses in a race. When it comes to the handicaps, we've normally got a couple each day. They're gold for something called a block bet. So ultimately what a block bet is you just doing a double from one race into the next race, but you're going to pick multiple selections. So if you had 2 selections in each race, it would be 4 bets. So all the permutations of the double. But when you talk about the Cheltenham Festival, we're talking 20 to 1, 25 to 1, 33 to 1 winners potentially. So don't be afraid to put 3 or 4 in there. And given the fact that this is the sort of the highlight of the National Hunt season, and handicappers are notorious for it, there will be handicap races where people like you and me that follow it day in, day out, we probably would have had some sort of affiliation to every horse in the field. And it's difficult to get away from some of those horses. But if you stick, say, 4 horses in for 2 races and 2 races for a handicaps, 16 bets it is, you could do that for, say, £1, cost you 16 quid. And if you were to get 2 20 to 1 winners, then all of a sudden you're talking about a £400 payout for quite a small stake. And given the fact that we're at the races and we're betting quite a lot, if the first leg goes down, you could potentially just back the next race as singles anyway. But small way of playing, and you get to cover a few horses.
Excellent, fantastic. New thing to me, that is block bets. So I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of people are going to be liking the sound of that because a lot of people like to bet smaller stakes with, and like to have a lot of options in their multiple bets. Couple of festival pointers from me is don't worry if you have a terrible first day. Don't worry. The festival is such a long betting heat, 4 days. Don't panic if you're down in the dumps after day 1. You can always come back the next day. It's a battle every single day. You're not going to be flying high 4 times a week. So just remember, it's a long battle over the 4 days, and be prepared because it's mentally draining. That is definitely true. Right. That's about it this week. We've come to the end of the show. Thank you very much, Dave, for joining us. I just want to know 2 things. One thing, what is the horse that you are most excited about to see at the Cheltenham Festival? And can you give me an ante-post bet for the followers this week? Ideally, something at a big price. Ideally, a handicapper. If you can, fantastic. We'll stick him up on the list.
Yeah, definitely can. So the horse that I'm most excited about seeing this year is Asterion Forlonge. It was one of those that I was excited about after his point, just thinking this just looks like a nice type. I had him pitched as an Albert Bartlett prospect from the beginning of the season. Then when he came out and he was okay in his bumper, I thought, he still wants a bit of a trip. But then he did it at 2 miles and I thought, hang on a minute, this is some serious speed. And then he did it again after in a decent graded race with not the top jockey on board. So I just think that he looks like he potentially could be very, very special. Still think he's a bit overlooked in the Supreme market, given the fact that there are the likes of Shishkin in there that I think looks a bit too short in form. So he'd be the one I'm most excited about. Obviously, we don't know how good he's going to be, but I reckon for the next few seasons, he could end up being a top notcher.
And he's one of these that could go in any of the 3 races, isn't he? He could go Supreme, Ballymore, Albert Bartlett. He could be that good. So interesting. What about your anti-post bet, Dave? You've got something, a double figure point, something that we can get excited about, and a handicapper?
I reckon I have. So I mentioned before that the handicaps would be something I'd look at nearer the time, but over the course of the season, there's a few horses you can sort of see that their expectations may have dropped early, and then you start to see a little bit of maybe a bit of a plot job coming in. So it's a horse in the Potemps, which is the home of the plot jobs. So he's going to have to be the best plot job of all of the plot jobs. But he ran at Cheltenham and he was quietly fancied at Cheltenham and he pulled up there. And it was a bit of an inconspicuous ride. He then went on to Musselburgh and he was in a Potemps qualifier. There was only 7 runners and one of the horses refused to race. So quite cleverly, they decided just to let him come last. It didn't matter about the distance because he'd already qualified. This horse is called Rocket Lad. If you get the chance to watch those 2 races back, just enjoy the fact that this horse is being set up for his mark to come down. They dropped him £1 after his Cheltenham run, so he's got Cheltenham experience at least. They dropped him a further £5 after that guinea in the Potemps. 139 will definitely be a mark that gets him in there. As I say, he's qualified. The only slight caveat with him is that he was lame in his listed race that he ran in before in Ireland, where he was well fancy for that, which is where I think the back class comes in. So there may be a case that he's just not as good as he might have looked. But if you bet with Bet365, they are non-run and no bet, but they are best odds guaranteed. So if they're 20 to 1, you can get slightly bigger in other places. But if they do go there with him, I don't think he's that price. If he's not fancied and the price drifts out, you still get a bit of value. But a lot of the Potemps ones are already far too short. People have jumped on the bandwagon. But Rocket Lad, I'm telling you, a few people are going to put this up if it comes to the festival. He will not go off 20s. And I do think, unless there's something wrong with him, I think he's going to hack up.
Fantastic. And that's non-runner, no bet. It's the first non-runner, no bet selection we're going to have on the list. I agree with Dave. Everything he said about Rocket Lad. Really like the horse. He's got some back form in Ireland that does make him look particularly well handicapped and does suggest that he could be potentially useful in time. So that is Rocket Lad for the Potemps Handicap Network final. What price, Dave? Sorry, 20 to 1 non-runner, no bet. Is that right? 20 to 1, 33 to 1 elsewhere. But we'll stick 20 to 1 non-runner, no bet is recommended by Dave. Thank you very much for joining us this week, mate. Really excited. Can't wait for the festival. Good luck, and I'll see you there.
Yeah, thanks for having me, mate.
Top man.